Hey, hi you guys. It's David at Bali and Beyond, and I'm going to read again today from The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And I wonder, I was thinking, some of you must wonder, why is he doing this? Why, and I'm just going to share with you that I didn't just wake up one day and think. Wow, I should be interested in consciousness, or I don't have anything to do today. I think I'll explore the meaning of life. Um, for those of us who are, I think, interested in this kind of thing, it's come through, often through pain, through, really questioning, what's going on here? Why are we here? And how do I best manage the journey, or not manage the journey, and so yeah, I'm reading it because I've been a searcher and a seeker most all of my life, and with an idea towards, let's find out what's going on here, and is my life just about going to school and getting an education and deciding what I want to do for a job, and getting married and raising kids, and is that my life? And it never felt like the way for me. It really didn't, and I see it as a pretty strong program, but not really the way, not really the what it's all about. So I was looking and to see what else there is, and I've read a lot. I've studied a lot of teachers, and I have a bookshelf here and we've also posted some books that are kind of our suggestions, my suggestions for reading, and some great fellow students. Really, that's what I am. I'm a student, and sometimes I get to teach a little bit, but always, even when I'm teaching, I feel like the student. And so I think Eckhart Tolle, even though the book seems upside down, Eckhart Tolle is also a student, and so I'm pleased to be able to share. Did you put the stuff on the live video for me? It's all done? It's funny, huh?
I'm sharing it.
Oh, you're sharing it? Great. James is here visiting today, and he's doing some sharing and to get this out. So I think this is my 7th read on this book so far. We've been making pretty good headway. So, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, then I know that you have questions. I know, that you're not accepting the status quo. You're saying, what's going on, and why, how can I be more? How can I be more service? Or how can I make a difference in this life? And because that's the kind of people that are interested in this kind of stuff. So I believe that's a fact. If you're interested, if you're listening to these on a regular basis, you are, questioning. A couple of other things that we do. I mean, that is my mission, is to lift the vibration of the planet, to help people to awaken, and in any way that I can, by sharing, information, by sharing love, by sharing our meditation kits, and helping people to do the things that will complement the possibility of awakening. And it's hard to sometimes awaken when we don't know that we're asleep. But once an awakening has happened, then you'll realize, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that the trick really is, like Eckhart Tolle says, being in the now. What do you need, bud? Ah, there it is. So the trick really is, Eckhart Tolle says, the trick is being in the now. Be here now. That's everything. That's it. That's totally it. There's no need to focus on fixing anything. anything in our perceived problems. There just is no need. It really is, the whole thing is being here now. When we're in this moment, there are no problems. Zero problems in the moment. So here we go. It's yeah, we're up. I wonder if I can see this here. Can I watch it here too? You know, there it is. Is that it? No. Just looking for if it comes up on my page. Hey, Peter. Nice to see you, buddy. I'm reading The Power of Now. And I was just saying that for those who are interested in this kind of stuff, in awakening, generally we got to this idea out of discomfort. And we're looking for connection, looking for, more than what we are getting in our problem-based society, And it's funny that we sometimes think the solution is about doing a bunch of things, but the solution lies only in the moment. And maybe there's stuff blocking us from the moment. Maybe, some of the things we've done in our past are so occupying the mind that we can't be present. Maybe our fears, maybe our guilt, maybe our shame keeps us from being in the moment. And there are some things that we can do to let go of that. And love, I think, helps that to move, helps us to move through that. And service, I believe, is a definite form of love, and you can find somewhere to serve where you're giving, totally unconditionally. It's that can be very, very helpful. So, and gratitude, I think, is a big key as well. If we can feel gratitude for the moment, just for the very breath that we breathe. We can just say thank you, thank you, thank you. That brings us into the moment. It really does. So anyway, enough from me. We're going to listen to Eckhart Tolle and see what Eckhart Tolle has to say. We are on chapter 4, and this is reading number 7. So this is taking us a while to get to chapter 4. And chapter 4 in this book, and just let you know, this is become a bit of a classic. The Power of Now has become a bit of a classic, and there's yes, it has. So chapter 4, mind strategies for avoiding the now. So I guess we're going to look at what he sees as tricks the mind plays to keep us out of being present. See, the mind, our ego, is not that excited in us discovering the now. Because when we discover the power of now, we don't really need, we've never needed, but we realize that we don't need the mind so much. I mean, the mind's beautiful and does great things, and it helps us get around. But at one level, we really don't need it. But it's somehow taken over. Okay. Chapter 4, Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. Loss of now, the core delusion. Starts with a question. Even if I completely accept that ultimately time is an illusion, what difference is that going to make in my life? I still have to live in a world that's completely dominated by time. He answers, intellectual agreement is just another belief. Intellectual agreement is just another belief and won't make much difference to your life. Oh, I see. So intellectual agreement. So agreeing that we don't need time, agreeing doesn't make any difference. To realize this truth, you need to live it. When every cell of your body is so present that it still vibrates with life, that it feels vibrant with life, and when you can feel that life every moment as the joy of being, then it can be said that you are free of time. Next question. but I still have to pay the bills tomorrow, and I'm still going to grow old and die just like everyone else. So how can I ever say that I am free of time? Tomorrow's bills are not the problem. The dissolution of the physical body is not a problem. Loss of now is the problem, or rather, the core delusion that turns a mere situation, event, or emotion into a personal problem and into suffering. Loss of now is loss of being. To be free of time is to be free of the psychological need of past. Need of past for your identity and future for your fulfillment. So when we live in the now, we don't need anything. This represents the most profound transformation of consciousness that you can imagine. In some rare cases, this shift in consciousness happens dramatically and radically, once and for all. When it does, it usually comes about through total surrender in the midst of intense suffering. Most people, however, have to work at it. I think for me, it's been a bit of both. One of the interesting things is that if I live dramatically close to the edge financially and close to the edge in every way, then it kind of helps us to be more present. Does that make sense? Yes. And I'm certainly close to the edge. I have this huge dream of have a meditation space in every single home, and I have no idea how it's all going to come together. Call me a dreamer. Hi, Ashley. Call me a dreamer. But that's my. I have this huge dream, and it's sometimes is a bit scary, and that brings me into the moment. Okay. First, you can become okay. When you have had your first few glimpses of the timeless state of consciousness, you begin to move back and forth between the dimensions of time and presence. First, you become aware of just how rarely your attention is truly in the now. But to know that you are not present is a great success. But to know that you're not present is a great success. That knowing is presence. Even if initially it only lasts for a couple of seconds or of clock time before it is lost again. Then, with increasing frequency, you choose to have the focus of your consciousness in the present moment rather than in the past or future. And whenever you realize that you had lost the now, and then whenever you realize that you have lost the now, you're able to stay in it, not just for a couple of seconds, but for longer periods as perceived from the external perception of clock time. So, before you are firmly established in the state of presence, which is to say before you are fully conscious, you shift back and forth for a while between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the state of presence and the state of mind identification. You lose the now and you return to it again and again. Eventually, presence becomes your predominant state. Yes! Fun. I love reading about this because it's just like, I've been feeling this. This has been happening, and this reading gives me words to put around it. Does that make sense? He's done this so beautifully, and I think many of us are living in glimpses of the moment, glimpses of presence, and don't even realize that. And his book helps us to see that. So, for most people, he says, presence is experienced either never or at all, or only accidentally and briefly on rare occasions without being recognized for what it is. Most humans alternate not between consciousness and unconsciousness, but only between different levels of unconsciousness. Now, one of the things, I don't know that this is true, I really don't, but my imagining is that we are evolving. my imagining is that things are shifting, and that this book was written in '94, and that it's happening fast. That we're moving quickly, and so I think there's more awakening happening today, and more searching for consciousness and searching for that state than ever before. It almost seems ridiculous that we're looking for something that we have. I mean, it's like the fish looking for water. We're in it, and yet we can't see it. It's really quite something. Ordinary unconsciousness and deep unconsciousness. This is kind of the next part of this chapter. What do you mean the different levels of unconsciousness was the question. As you probably know, his answer, in sleep, you constantly move between the phases of dreamland sleep and dreamless sleep and dream state. Similarly, in wakefulness, most people only shift between ordinary unconsciousness and deep unconsciousness. What I call ordinary unconsciousness means being identified with your thought processes and emotions, your reactions and desires and aversions. It is most people's normal state. In that state, you are run by the egoic mind. Hi Jennifer. Hey Jen. You're run by the egoic mind, and you are aware of being, and you are unaware of being. It is a state not of acute pain or unhappiness, but of the almost continuous low level of unease and discontent and boredom or nervousness, a restless, irritable, and discontent state, which he calls just normal unconsciousness. It's just a level of background static, he calls it. You may not realize this because it is so much a part of the normal living, just as you are not aware of a continuous low background noise, such as the hum of an air conditioner until it stops. And then when it suddenly stops, there's a sense of relief. Many people use alcohol, drugs, sex, food, television, or even shopping as anesthesias in the unconscious attempt to remove the basic unease. Boy, do I know about that. And my thing, a very young age, was to wake up from how I've been using drugs and alcohol. When I say young, in my 20s, when I realized that not only was I using drugs and alcohol medicinally, but when I did use, I would lose total control of when I would stop and how much I would use, and I was totally over the top and in addiction, really. So I came to a time in my life early when I realized that had to go. Now, it doesn't mean that I totally woke up, but I realized that I had to have some sort of a spiritual connection. And really my life since then has been about that. Even before then has been about developing that connection and finding this thing that I was looking for. Anyway, the power of now. Beautiful. When it suddenly does stop, there's a sense of relief. Many people use alcohol, drugs, sex, food, work, television, and even shopping as an anesthesia in an unconscious attempt to remove the basic unease. When this happens, an activity that might be very enjoyable if used in moderation becomes imbibed with a compulsive or addictive quality. That's what I just said. And all that is ever achieved through it is extremely short-lived symptom relief. The unease of ordinary unconsciousness turns into the pain of deep unconsciousness, a state of more acute and more obvious suffering or unhappiness. When things go wrong, when the ego is threatened or there is a major challenge, threat or loss, real or imagined, in your life situation, or conflict in a relationship, it is an intensified version of ordinary unconsciousness. Different from it, not in kind, but in degree. Okay. Did you get that? So they're talking about when we jump into heavy-duty unconsciousness. And in ordinary unconsciousness, habitual resistance to or denial of what is... In ordinary unconsciousness, habitual resistance to or denial of what is creates the unease and discontent that most people accept as normal living. Hot damn. When this resistance becomes intensified through some challenge or threat to the ego, it brings up intense negativity, such as anger and acute fear and aggression and depression and so on. Deep unconsciousness often means that the pain body has been triggered and that you have become identified with it. Physical violence would be impossible without deep unconsciousness. It can also occur easily whenever and wherever a crowd of people or even an entire nation generate a negative collective energy field. Deep unconsciousness. We see that happening we see it happening all over the world, don't we? And people are acting out of fear, deep unconsciousness. Everywhere. The best indicator of your level of consciousness is how you deal with life's challenges when they come. Through those challenges, an already unconscious person tends to become more deeply unconscious, and a conscious person becomes intensely conscious. You can use a challenge to awaken you, or you can allow it to pull you into an even deeper sleep. The dream of an ordinary unconsciousness then turns into a nightmare. If you cannot be present, even in normal circumstances, such as when you are sitting alone in a room, if you cannot be present, even in normal circumstances, such as when you are sitting alone in a room or walking in the woods or listening to someone, then you certainly won't be able to stay conscious when something goes wrong or you are faced with difficult people or situations, with loss the threat of loss. You will be taken over by a reaction, which ultimately is already some form of fear, which ultimately is always some sort of fear, and pulled into a deep unconsciousness. Those challenges are your tests. Only the way in which you deal with them will show you and others where you are as far as your state of consciousness is concerned. Nice. Not how long you can sit with your eyes closed or what visions you see. So how we act, how we show up in each moment, especially in challenging moments, are really the measure of our consciousness. And whereas if he's saying for us to be sitting on the back porch in a meditative state is not necessarily. It's easier to be conscious there than it is, say, in the field, in business, in life, in relationship. Where do we want to be conscious? In each moment, yes. So it is essential to bring more consciousness into your life in ordinary situations when everything is going relatively smoothly. So it is essential, yes. In this way, you grow in presence power. It generates an energy field in you and around you of high vibrational frequency. No unconsciousness, no negativity, no discord or violence can enter that field and survive. just as darkness cannot survive in the presence of light. Sweet. When you learn to be the witness of your thoughts and emotions, which is an essential part of being present, you may be surprised when you first become aware of the background static of ordinary unconsciousness and realize how rarely, if ever, you are truly at ease within yourself. On the level of your thinking, you will find a great deal of resistance in the form of judgment. On the level of your thinking, you will find a great deal of resistance in the form of judgment, discontent, and mental projection away from the now. On the emotional level, there will be an undercurrent of unease and tension and boredom, nervousness. Both are aspects of the mind in its habitual resistance mode. Hot damn. Here we go. What are we seeking, he says. Carl Jung, you know Carl Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, tells in one of his books of a conversation he had with a Native American chief who pointed out to him that in his perception, most white people have tense faces, staring eyes, and cruel demeanor. He said, they are always seeking something. What are they seeking? The whites always want something. They're always uneasy and restless. We don't know what they want. We think they're mad. Yes. The undercurrent of constant unease started long before the rise of the Western industrial civilization, of course. But in Western civilization, which now covers almost the entire globe, including most of the East, it manifests in an unprecedentedly acute form. It was already there in the time of Jesus, and it was there 600 years before that, in the time of Buddha, and long before that. Why are you always anxious? Jesus asked his disciples. Can anxious thought add a single day to your life? And the Buddha taught that the root of suffering is to be found in the constant wanting or craving or desire. Resistance to the now as a collective dysfunction is intrinsically connected to a loss of awareness of being. Loss of awareness of being and forms the basis for a dehumanized industrial civilization. Freud, by the way, also recognized the existence of this undercurrent of unease and wrote about it in his book, Civilizations and Its Discontents. Freud's book, Civilization and Its Discontents. But he did not recognize the true root of the unease and failed to realize that freedom from it is possible. This collective dysfunction has created a very unhappy and extraordinarily violent society that has become a threat not only to itself, but to all life on the planet. Wow. Dissolving ordinary unconsciousness. That's what we want to do, right? Hey, Jen? Dissolving ordinary unconsciousness. The question is, so how can we free of this affliction? And he says, make it conscious. Observe the many ways in which unease, discontent, and tension arise within you through unnecessary judgment, resistance to what is, and denial of the now. Anything unconscious dissolves when you shine the light of consciousness on it. Once you know how to dissolve ordinary unconsciousness, the light of your presence will shine brightly. And it will be much easier to deal with deep unconsciousness wherever you feel its gravitational pull. However, ordinary unconsciousness may not be easy to detect initially because it is so normal. It's like being in the water and not knowing it, right? Make it a habit, like the fish. The fish doesn't know he's in the water. At least as far as we know. Make it a habit to monitor your mental, emotional state through self-observation. Am I at ease at this moment? It's a good question to ask yourself frequently. Or you can ask, what's going on inside of me in this moment? Be at least as interested in what's going on inside you as in what happens outside. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. Imagine. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. Where was I? Primary reality is within, secondary reality without. But don't answer these questions immediately. Direct your attention inward. Have a look inside yourself. What kind of thoughts is your mind producing? What kind of thoughts is your mind producing? What do you feel? Direct your attention into the body. Is there any tension? Once you detect that there is a low level of unease, the background static, see in what way you are avoiding, resisting, or denying life. Wow. By denying the now, see in what way you're avoiding, resisting, or denying life. By denying the now. There are many ways in which people unconsciously resist the present moment. I'll give you a few examples. With practice, your power of self-observation, of monitoring your inner state will become sharper. Nice. Freedom from unhappiness. These are all subtitles. Freedom from unhappiness. Do you resent doing what you're doing? It may be your job, or you may have agreed to do something and are doing it, but part of you resents and resists it. Are you carrying unspoken resentment toward a person close to you? Do you realize that the energy you thus emanate is so harmful in its effects that you are in fact contaminating yourself as well as those around you? Have a good look inside. Is there even the slightest trace of resentment, unwillingness? If there is, observe it on both the mental and emotional levels. What thoughts is your mind creating around this situation? Then look at the situation. Then look at the emotion, which is the body's reaction to those thoughts. Feel the emotion. Does it feel pleasant or unpleasant? Is it an energy that you would actually choose to have inside you? Do you have a choice? Maybe you're being taken advantage of. Maybe you're being taken advantage of. Maybe the activity you're engaged in is tedious, and maybe someone close to you is dishonest or irritating or unconscious. But all this is irrelevant. Whether your thoughts and emotions about this situation are justified or not makes no difference. The fact is that you are resisting what is. Wow. Resisting what is. I'm going to put this up like this a bit. You are making the present moment into an enemy. You're creating unhappiness, conflict between the inner and the outer. Your unhappiness is polluting not only your own inner being and those around you, but also the collective human psyche of which you are an inseparable part. The pollution of the planet is only an outward reflection. The pollution of the planet is only an outward reflection of an inner psychic pollution. Millions of unconscious individuals not taking responsibility for their inner space. Either stop doing what you're doing, speak to the person concerned, and express fully what you need, or drop the negativity that your mind has created around the situation and that serves no purpose whatsoever except to strengthen a false sense of self. Recognizing its futility is important. Negativity is never optimum way of dealing with any situation. In fact, in most cases, it keeps you stuck in it, blocking real change. Anything that is done with negative energy will become contaminated by it, and in time give rise to more and more unhappiness. Imagine. Furthermore, any negative inner state is contagious. Wow. Unhappiness spreads more easily than a physical disease. Through the law of resonance, R-E-S-O-N-A-N-C-E, resonance. Through the law of resonance, it triggers and feeds latent negativity in others, unless they are immune, that is, and highly conscious. Are you polluting the world or cleaning up the mess? You're responsible for your inner space. Nobody else is, just as you are responsible for the planet. As within, so without. If humans clear inner pollution, then they will also cease to create outer pollution. Isn't that interesting? You know, certainly when he wrote this in '94, we didn't have the problem that we have as deep as we do now with pollution on the planet. You know, I mean, there was pollution, but it certainly wasn't what we have right now. How are we doing? I'm going to read another page, and I could read all day, but I'm a little distracted. I'm feeling a little distracted. There's stuff coming in that wants to be done out there, so I'm going to read a little bit more, and then love it if you guys come for meditation tonight. We have our meditation here on Monday evenings at 6:30, and I'm excited that we have a nice group that comes, and love it if you come. Jen, you're coming in? Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm going to read another page or so. His student is asking, how can we drop negativity as you suggest? By dropping it, he says. How do you drop a piece of hot coal when you're holding it in your mind, in your hand? How do you drop some heavy and useless baggage that you're carrying? By recognizing that you don't want to suffer the pain or carry the burden anymore, and then letting go of it. Deep unconsciousness, such as the pain body, or other deep pain, such as the loss of a loved one, usually needs to be transmuted through acceptance combined with the light of your presence, your sustained attention. Many patterns in ordinary unconsciousness, on the other hand, can simply be dropped once you know that you don't want them and don't need them anymore. Once you realize that you have a choice, that you are not just a bundle of unconditional reflexes, all this implies that you are able to access the power of now. Without it, you have no choice. If you call some emotions negative, aren't you creating a mental polarity of good and bad, as you explained earlier? It's a question. If you call some emotions negative, aren't you creating a mental polarity of good and bad, as you explained earlier? No, he says. Polarities are created at an earlier stage, when your mind judged the present moment as bad. This judgment then created the negative emotion. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. You ask him. Yeah, tell him I'm on. Thanks. He, here's a question, and from one of the students. The student says, but if you call some emotions negative, aren't you really saying that that they shouldn't be there? That it's not okay to have those emotions? My understanding is that you should give yourself permission to have whatever feelings come up, rather than judge them as bad or say that they shouldn't have them. It's okay to feel resentment. It's okay to be angry and irritated, moody, or whatever. Otherwise, we get into repression, inner conflicts, or denial. Everything is okay as it is. That's the student saying. He says, of course. Once a mind pattern, an emotion, or a reaction is there, accept it. You are not conscious enough to have a choice in the matter. That's not a judgment, it's just a fact. If you had a choice, or realized that you do have a choice, would you choose suffering or joy? Ease or unease? Peace or conflict? Would you choose a thought or feeling that cuts you off from your natural state of well-being, the joy of life within? Any such feeling I call negative, which simply means bad. Not in the sense that you shouldn't have done that, but just plain factual bad, like feeling sick in the stomach. How is it possible that humans killed in excess of 100 million fellow humans in the 20th century alone? Humans inflicted pain of such magnitude on one another is beyond anything you can imagine. And that's not taking into account the mental and emotional and physical violence, that the torture, the pain, the cruelty they continue to inflict on each other as well as on other sentient beings on a daily basis. Do they act in this way because they are in touch with their natural state, the joy of life within? Of course not. Only people who are in deeply negative state, who feel very bad indeed, would create such a reality as a reflection of how they feel. Now, they are engaged in destroying nature and the planet that sustain them. Unbelievable, but true. Humans are a dangerous, insane, and very sick species. That's not a judgment, it's a fact. It's also a fact that the sanity is there underneath the madness. Healing and redemption are available right now. Coming back specifically to what you said, it is certainly true that when you accept your resentments or moodiness or anger and so on, you are no longer forced to act them out blindly, and you are less likely to project them onto others. But I wonder if you are not deceiving yourself. When you have been practicing acceptance for a while, as you have, there comes a point where you need to go on to the next stage, where those negative emotions are not created anymore. If you don't, your acceptance just becomes a mental label that allows your ego to continue to indulge in unhappiness, and so strengthen its sense of separation from other people and your surroundings and your here and now. As you know, separation, hey Alexia, I love. As you know, where am I? If you don't, your acceptance just becomes a mental label that allows your ego to continue to indulge in unhappiness and to strengthen its sense of separation from other people, your surroundings, your here and now. As you know, separation is the basis of the ego's sense of identity. True acceptance would transmute those feelings at once. Those feelings at once. And if you really knew deeply that everything is okay, as you put it, and which of course is true, then would you have those negative feelings in the first place? Without judgment, without resistance to what is, they would not arise. You have an idea in your mind that everything is okay, but deep down you don't really believe it. So the old mental, emotional patterns of resistance are still in place. That's what makes you feel bad. And that's okay too. Are you defending your right to be unconscious? Your right to suffer? Don't worry. Nobody's going to take that away from you. Once you realize that a certain kind of food makes you sick, would you carry on eating that food and keep asserting that it is okay to be sick? Beautiful, eh? So I think, no, I don't do future readings, Alexa. I don't. I, I'm reading from the power of now, which is about now, not the future. And I don't know that anybody has a future. Maybe there is no future. There's only now in each moment. So that's it. Another 10 or 11 pages today, which is great. I'm in the middle of chapter 4, I think it is. And yeah, in the middle of chapter 4, page 82. Hopefully you guys get a copy of this and read along. And I hope to read some more tomorrow. We're making a headway. 82. How many pages is this thing? 227. We'll keep poking away at it. Okay, love you guys so much. Follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Love it if you share these. And, and if you're getting anything from it, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, love you lots. And Jennifer, I'll see you tonight, I hope. And if you want to come for our meditation at 6:30, that'd be great. Okay, cheers.